Alright, so today we're going to be reading this book. I'm not going to read the title yet, but we're going to be talking about the illustrations and how it connects to the mood of book. So what is an illustration, Emma? Do you know what an illustration is? Like when your teacher says, oh, this is the illustrator of the book.
It's like someone who makes a book.
Yeah, but what part of the book? What does it mean to illustrate? Like illustrate, like what am I doing? Like
Writing.
Well, that's the author. Liv. Drawing. So look, all these are illustrations, right? So these are and how we feel about each page and each illustration. So Daniel finds a poem by Micah Archer. Daniel knows all the rocks, trees, and animals in the park. On Monday morning, Daniel sees something new on the park gate. A sign reads, Poetry in the Park, Sunday at 6 o'clock. What is poetry? Daniel says. Do we know what poetry is? You don't know what poetry is? Liv, do you know what poetry is?
No.
You don't know? Let's find out. He looks up in surprise when he hears Spider say, To me, poetry is when morning dew glistens. What does that mean? Look at this illustration. Do you know what dew is?
Like you do something.
Yeah, but there's another dew. So in the morning, when it's really, really early, so like when Liv and Lila go to their tournaments at softball, and they run on the grass, do you ever feel like the grass a little wet? That's morning dew. So really early in the morning, sometimes there's little tiny water, just like this, all over the little spider's web. And I guess to the spider, it's really refreshing. So that's what he thinks poetry is to them. So there's like little tiny dew. That's little tiny water, little tiny drops of water all over the page, all over his little web. So to me, poetry is when morning dew glistens. On Tuesday, Daniel climbs the oak tree. He sees Squirrel. Squirrel, do you know what poetry is? Poetry is when crisp leaves crunch, Squirrel tells him. What does that mean?
That's a cat.
Where?
That's a cat.
No, this is a little squirrel. Look. Can you hear, can you hear, when you read this word? Crisp leaves crunch. Do you, kind of hear the crunching of the leaves, in your head? Yeah. That's what the illustrator, when you look at these little leaves, you can kind of hear them. Their little feet. You can kind of hear that, so that's how the illustration really portrays that word, crunch.
So what is Daniel trying to do?
Daniel's asking everybody. He's asking everybody. Why would he ask all these animals these crazy, why would they say these crazy, things that are poetry?
Maybe because, they do it?
Yeah, they do it. So maybe that's what is comforting to them. Lila?
Or it's figurative language.
What does that mean?
Like similes, comparing stuff.
Yeah, so maybe they're comparing or okay. On Wednesday, Daniel calls into Chipmunk's hole. Chipmunk, can you tell me what poetry is? Poetry? Poetry is a home with many windows and an old stone wall.
Because he has one.
Yeah, he likes that. On Thursday, Daniel makes a boat with a leaf for a sail and watches the wind carry it across the pond. He calls quietly to Frog. Excuse me, Frog, what is poetry? Poetry, says Frog, is a cool pool to dive into.
Because he dives into it.
Yeah, he really dives into it. See, look at him. So in this illustration, what is he doing?
He's jumping into it.
Yeah, he's jumping into the cool pool.
From that.
So when you see this word, cool pool, what do you feel? Do you think of the cold water in summer, when you jump into the pool? On Friday, Daniel parts the cattails and finds Turtle. Hello, Turtle. I have a question. Do you know what poetry is? I think poetry is a sun-warmed sand, Turtle says. You can see the sand. What color is that sand?
Yellow.
Yeah, it's like a dark yellow, orange, like the sun. So it's probably
Or
like really
golden.
warm.
Well,
And golden. On Saturday afternoon, Daniel finds a cricket in the shade of the slide. When the shadows are long, Cricket fills the air with music. Is this poetry to you, Cricket? Singing at twilight when the day is done. Indeed it is, Daniel.
Why is he sad?
Ooh, who's sad? Oh yeah, he looks a little sad.
Why?
Why do you think he's a little sad?
Because he don't know what
Yeah, maybe he's not sad. Maybe he's just wondering, you know.
maybe it's looking at
Glad
a
you
cricket.
hit that.
Maybe it's looking at a cricket.
Yeah, he's just looking at Cricket because Cricket's so tiny. Maybe he's just wondering and asking Cricket. That night, moonlight fills Daniel's room. He hears a whoo leaning from his window. He calls to Owl. Owl, what is poetry? Oh, poetry. Poetry is bright stars in the branches, moonlight on the grass, and silent wings to take me wherever I go. Good night, dear Daniel, she whispers and flies off into the night. How do we know that it's nighttime? Emma?
Because like a moon is up and like
Yeah,
and
there's
like
a moon.
sky is like darker.
Yeah, it's darker, Liv.
Owls are nocturnal, so
Yeah,
they sleep
owls,
during the day.
nocturnal. And then in the right here, into the night, and it's dark. So the words really connect with this illustration.
And there's like stars.
So if the illustrator drew like the sun on this page, would it make sense?
No.
No, because what's the setting at nighttime, right?
Yeah.
And if it was sunny, what do you think it would be, Emma?
Morning.
Morning, or maybe in the afternoon.
Morning.
Mariah, yeah, morning. Oh, look at this illustration. The sun. What do we think it is?
Morning.
Morning.
Like,
On Sunday, the sun wakes up Daniel. He's happy when he remembers it's Sunday. Today is poetry in the park, says Daniel, and I have a poem.
yes.
Morning dew glistens, crisp leaves crunch. There's a home with many windows in the old stone wall.
Dad.
Cool pools to dive in, sun-warmed sand to lie in. Singing at twilight when the day is done. Bright stars in the branches, moonlight on the grass, and silent wings to take me wherever I go. Where do you get that poem, Liv?
From all the animals.
From all the animals. They took all the animals, everything that what poetry was to them, he made a little poem.
Yeah.
So a poem is when you have like little stanzas, and they're very short, like not like a whole book, but little short lines. And it's like a little, like, they make, sometimes it has rhyming in it, you know? And he took everything that poetry was to them. So poetry can be like anything that you like, right? What else can it be? Anything you like, maybe, what? Anything you like to do, maybe with your family, anything that makes you happy. So what do we think if the turtle over here, where's this little turtle? If the turtle was on a cold, dark sand, would he be happy? Would that be what poetry is to him? I don't think so. Because he likes sun-warmed sand. He likes to be warm. And that's what poetry was to him. So look, now we have all of our illustrations here. I'm going to keep this book right here that we can look back and see all of the illustrations and the way that the illustrator used the oil pastels that we have. So we're mainly going to be using the oil pastels, but if you need to like outline, you can use that. But we're going to be making what poetry is to us. So you're going to be doing this by yourselves, but anything that you like. Lila, can you hit that? Anything that you like to do, anything, whatever poetry is to you, you can draw and write one sentence. I'm going to help you, okay? One sentence of what poetry is to you. And then at the end, we're going to make our own poem, just like Daniel did with all of what poetry was to the animals. Mariah, look up here. Right? Mariah? Right? So we're going to make our own poem. So now we can start. You can start using the oil pastels. I'm going to leave this here so you can make sure your sentence really shows like
Do you have
the
any
mood
markers?
of your huh?
Do you have any more of those?
Oh, there's like 28 things in each one. You can use the markers, Mariah. So anything that poetry is to you, and then at the end we're going to write a sentence. Make sure your sentence really connects with your illustration, because are you going to, just like in the book, are you going to draw the nighttime with the sun? No, you got to make sure your illustrations really connect and set the mood of you. And so, like, what do you see? What do you feel? Without, because she didn't really get to write her sentence. But what do you feel by just looking at it? Emma, hold on. I'm asking Liv and
A
Lila.
sunny day.
A what?
A sunny day.
So a sunny day. What does that make you feel?
Warm.
Warm? What was your sentence, Emma? What is poetry to you?
Like it's a sunny day and it's warm, and me and my friends are going on a adventure, and me and my friends found a mountain and we climbed up.
Oh, wow. So it's you and your friends like having fun, outside in the sun, playing.
And like
'Cause
Like
it's
what-
rainy and
So there's rain in the picture, in her illustration. What about you, Emma?
and like there's clouds and rain is coming down from a clouds and it's
Yeah.
super cold. So they
So
have to
why do you think it's cold, though? What makes you think it's cold?
because of the rain, and they have to run inside.
So, and if it was hot, what do you think, what color would it be, Emma?
So
Like
sunny and blue.
Blue? Like maybe, I guess, yeah, maybe for the sun. So I guess maybe the
No.
purple and the blue that she
No.
put in, it makes it kind of like dark and cold. Yeah, so her illustrations really connect. So, Lila, what do you think poetry is?
A cool, soothing, rainy night.
And why do you think, why is that poetry to you?
Because it helps me sleep.
Helps you sleep. All right, Liv, yours?
It's like nighttime. And,
Nighttime?
yeah.
Okay. What about
And
these
when
little,
it's
these
night-
little lines? What are they?
wind.
Wind. Yeah. Lila, what do you think? Same thing?
I think,
The
yeah.
moon,
I think
dark.
it's just the windy
So what is
night.
what is poetry to you, Liv?
when the air flows in the night.
When the air flows in the night. Why?
And night.
Because it's really soothing to me and makes me go to sleep.
Nice, cool, good job. What is poetry? What do illustrations do for the book?
It helps the reader understand.
Helps the
what
reader
someone's trying to
understand.
say.
Yeah, what someone's trying to say, makes you feel. Liv,
And then that poetry is different from everyone else.
poetry is different for everyone else. Do you agree with that, Emma? Our poem. Friends play outside. When the sun shines bright, the air blows in the night, cool, soothing rain from clouds. Wow! That really came together and it kind of rhymed. We rhymed without even knowing. All right, high five. With all your oil pastels all over the place. Make sure you take your picture.
Emma, grab my
Get your
phone.
picture.